Good afternoon, Virgo. You know the silence I'm speaking of, the kind that arrives not like a peaceful pause, but like a door closing in a distant part of the house. You hear it even though you cannot see it. You feel the shift in pressure, the change in temperature, the sudden awareness that something has been shut between you and another person. And you are left standing on your side of that door, unsure what happened, unsure why it closed, unsure whether you are meant to knock or walk away. Some people may be carrying this weight right now. The weight of being ignored by someone who once noticed everything. The weight of being hurt by someone who once protected you from hurt. The weight of watching someone you care about become a stranger without explanation, without warning, without the courtesy of a reason you could hold in your hands and examine. Uh, you may have replayed the last conversation 100 times, searching for the moment things shifted, the word you should not have said, the silence you should have filled, the sign you missed that might have explained everything. But the replaying does not bring answers. It only deepens the grooves in your mind until the same thoughts run in the same circles, wearing a path that leads nowhere. There is a pattern that sometimes appears in these situations. A pattern where the person who withdraws is not as indifferent as they appear, where the silence is not emptiness, but fullness that cannot find expression, where the distance is not rejection, but fear dressed in cold clothing. You may find this hard to believe. When someone ignores you, when someone hurts you, when someone makes you feel invisible after once making you feel seen, it is natural to assume the worst. Natural to assume they no longer care. Natural to assume you were wrong about everything you thought existed between you. But sometimes, beneath the surface of cold behavior, there is something else moving. Something the person themselves may barely understand. Something they cannot articulate, even to themselves. Something that comes out not as words, but as withdrawal. Not as confession, but as coldness. You may have sensed this in quiet moments. A flicker behind their eyes when they look at you, quickly extinguished. A hesitation before they turn away. A moment when their mask seems to slip, and you glimpse something raw beneath before they rebuild the wall and disappear behind it again. These glimpses are not your imagination. They are cracks in a facade that is exhausting to maintain. There is a particular kind of person who hurts others through silence. Not because they are cruel, not because they are indifferent, but because they are terrified, terrified of their own feelings, terrified of the depth of what they feel, terrified that if they let themselves feel it fully, they would unravel completely. And so they build walls, high walls, thick walls, walls made of distance and silence and carefully constructed coldness. And they stand behind those walls, watching you through gaps in the stone, aching to reach out, but frozen by fear. You may be wondering, what would they say? If they could speak, what confession lives behind their silence? What words are trapped in their throat, unable to cross the distance between what they feel and what they show? This is a reflection worth sitting with. Not because it guarantees anything, not because it changes what happened, but because understanding what may live beneath someone's coldness can loosen its hold on your heart. If they could speak, if they could find the courage, if the walls between them and their own feelings crumbled just long enough for truth to escape. This is what they might want to say to you. First, they might want you to know that their silence was never about you. This is the hardest truth for hurt hearts to receive. When someone pulls away, it feels deeply personal. It feels like a verdict on your worth, like a statement that you are not enough, not worthy, not deserving of their presence. But sometimes the withdrawal has nothing to do with your value. It has to do with their own unworthiness, their own fear, their own conviction that they will eventually disappoint you, hurt you, fail you. And so they preemptively leave before you can leave them. They create distance before distance can be created for them. They might want to tell you that they left because staying felt impossible, not because they didn't care, but because they cared too much. Because being close to you made them feel things they had spent years trying not to feel. Because your presence cracked something open in them that they had worked so hard to seal shut, and they didn't know what to do with that. They didn't have the tools. They didn't have the language. They only had the overwhelming sensation that they were drowning in feelings they could not name, could not control, could not contain. And so they ran. They might want to confess that they think of you more than you know, that in quiet moments, when the distractions fall away, your face appears in their mind, that they have rehearsed conversations with you 1,000 times, conversations where they explain everything, apologize for everything, tell you what they could never tell you, that they have picked up their phone to message you more times than they could count, only to put it down again, paralyzed by the fear of what they would say. You are not forgotten. This is important to hear. You are not erased. You are carried in a private place within them, a place they rarely visit because it hurts too much, but a place that holds you nonetheless. They might want to admit that they are ashamed, deeply, profoundly ashamed, ashamed of how they treated you, ashamed of their silence, ashamed of their coldness, ashamed that they became the person who hurts instead of the person who heals. And shame is a difficult thing to carry. It does not inspire confession. It inspires hiding. It does not inspire repair. It inspires further withdrawal. The more ashamed they feel, the harder it becomes to face you. The harder it becomes to admit what they did. The harder it becomes to ask for forgiveness they are certain they do not deserve. They might want to tell you that they remember the small things, The way you laughed at something no one else found funny. The way you looked at them when you thought they weren't watching. The way your voice softened when you said their name. These memories are not lost. They are preserved, like pressed flowers in the pages of a book they rarely open but know is there. They might want to tell you that you mattered, that you matter still, that the distance between you now does not erase what existed between you then, that the silence does not invalidate the moments when words were not needed. They might want to confess that they are not as strong as they appeared, that the coldness was armor, not truth, that the indifference was performance, not reality, that beneath the surface of someone who seemed unbothered, untouchable, unmoved, there was someone who was deeply, desperately affected by you. And that scared them more than anything has ever scared them. They might want to tell you that they don't expect forgiveness. They know they don't deserve it. They know they caused pain. They know that their silence carved a hollow in your chest that may never fully fill. And they carry that knowledge like a stone in their stomach every day. But they might want you to know that if forgiveness were possible, if you could ever find it in your heart to look at them without the weight of hurt in your eyes, they would not waste it. They would not take it for granted. They would spend the rest of their life trying to be worthy of it. They might want to tell you that they dream of you. Not in the way of longing, though there is longing. Not in the way of possession, though there is wanting. But in the way of wondering. Wondering if you're okay. Wondering if you've found someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated. Wondering if you ever think of them, and if you do, whether it's with sadness or with indifference or with something softer. They might want to tell you that they hope you're happy, even if it's without them, especially if it's without them, because they know in their clearer moments that they are not equipped to be the one who gives you happiness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. They might want to confess that they are working on themselves, that they are trying to understand why they do what they do, why they run, why they hide, why they hurt the people they care about most, that they are in the slow, painful process of excavating their own wounds, the ones that made them this way, the ones that caused them to become someone who causes pain. And they might want you to know that you were part of what woke them up. Losing you or pushing you away or watching you walk through the door they held closed, it shook something loose in them. It made them realize that they cannot continue as they are, that something has to change, that the cost of their fear is too high. They might want to tell you that they love you. There, the word they could never say, the confession that lived behind every silence, the truth that was too big for their small walls, too bright for their dim rooms, too real for their carefully constructed unreality. They love you, or they loved you, or they love you still in a way they don't understand and cannot manage and have never been able to express. And that love, whatever form it takes, whatever tense it lives in, is real. You may be wondering what to do with this. If these words are true, if this confession lives somewhere in the heart of the person who hurt you, what does it change? Does it undo the pain? Does it erase the silence? Does it make the ignoring hurt less? No, it does not, and they would not expect it to. But perhaps it shifts something just slightly. Perhaps it allows you to see that the story you've been telling yourself about what happened may not be the whole story. That your pain was real, but their pain may have been real too. That their silence was not evidence of your unworthiness, but evidence of their own brokenness. And sometimes that shift in perspective can loosen pain's grip, just enough to breathe, just enough to begin to heal. Some people may be ready to hear this now, ready to consider that the person who hurt them was not a monster, but a human being, flawed and frightened and failing, ready to hold their own hurt and the other person's fear in the same hands without letting either crush them. This is not forgiveness. Not yet. Forgiveness is its own journey, its own process, its own timing. This is simply understanding, simply seeing, simply allowing that the story may be more complex than pain initially allowed you to see. There is a particular kind of strength in this. The strength to hold complexity, to acknowledge that someone can love you and hurt you in the same breath, to accept that their silence may have been full of things they could not say even as it emptied you, to sit with the paradox that caring and withdrawing can live in the same heart. You may be discovering this strength in yourself now, not because you sought it, but because pain demanded it of you. And you rose to meet the demand, as hurt people often do, finding resources within yourself you didn't know you had. The person who ignored you, who hurt you, who disappeared into their own silence, they may never say these words. They may never find the courage. They may remain behind their walls forever, watching you from a distance, carrying their unspoken confession like a wound that never heals. And you may never receive the apology you deserve, the explanation you need, the words that would make sense of the senseless. This is a painful possibility to hold, but it is a real one. And yet, even if they never speak, even if the confession remains locked inside them, unoffered, unspoken, unheard, you have heard it now, in this space, in these words. You have heard what they might say if they could. You have glimpsed what might live behind their silence. And that hearing, that glimpsing, can be enough. Not to replace what you needed from them, not to excuse what they did, but to free you just slightly from the endless loop of wondering, from the replaying, from the searching for answers in the silence that will not speak. There is a reflection worth carrying forward about what you needed from this person that you did not receive, about what you hoped they would be that they could not become, about the gap between what was offered and what was required, and what that gap says about them and what it says about you. Because sometimes the people who hurt us teach us something essential, not through their presence, through their absence, not through what they gave, through what they withheld. They teach us what we will not accept again. They teach us what we deserve. They teach us the shape of our own boundaries, carved in relief by the pain of their violation. You may be learning this now. Learning what you require. Learning what you will no longer tolerate. Learning that your presence is not something to be earned through endurance of absence. Your love is not something to be proven through acceptance of silence. And this learning, as painful as its tuition has been, is invaluable. It will shape every connection that follows. It will inform every choice you make about who you let close, who you trust, who you love. It will become the foundation of a deeper knowing that you are worthy of presence, worthy of words, worthy of someone who does not need to disappear to protect themselves from their own feelings. The person who hurt you may have their confession. They may carry love for you in a locked room of their heart. They may think of you with longing and regret and 1,000 unsaid things. But none of that changes what you need. None of that obligates you to wait. None of that requires you to remain open to someone who has shown you through their actions what they are capable of offering. You can hold both truths. That they may love you in their broken way, and that their love, as it is currently expressed, is not enough for you. That they may have feelings they cannot articulate, and that you deserve someone who can articulate theirs, that they may be fighting their own battles, and that you are not required to be collateral damage in that fight. Some people may be standing at a crossroads now. A crossroads between holding on to the hope that this person will eventually speak, will eventually change, will eventually become who you needed them to be, and releasing that hope, not because it's wrong to hope, but because your healing cannot depend on someone else's timeline. This is a tender place to stand. The place between love and self-love, between forgiveness and boundaries, between understanding someone's pain and protecting yourself from it. There is no single right way to navigate this crossing. Only your way. Only the path that feels true to your heart, your needs, your healing. Only the choice that honors both what you feel for them and what you feel for yourself. And whatever you choose, whatever path unfolds from this moment forward, know that you are not alone in it, that countless others have stood where you stand, weighed what you weigh, chosen what you will choose, that the pain of being ignored and hurt by someone you love is a pain as old as love itself, and that people have survived it, have grown from it, have found on the other side of it a deeper understanding of what they need and who they are. The confession you may never hear. You have heard it now, in this space, in these words, and having heard it, you are free to do with it what you will. free to let it soften something in you, free to let it change nothing, free to hold it alongside your pain without letting either define you. There is a particular kind of power in this, the power of knowing what might live in another's heart without needing them to confirm it, the power of understanding without requiring explanation, the power of releasing someone to their own journey even as you continue yours. You may be discovering this power now, not because you sought it, but because pain demanded you find it, and you did. You are the person who ignored you, who hurt you, who disappeared into silence. They carry their own weight, their own regret, their own unspoken words, and you carry yours. The weight of what happened, the weight of what you needed and did not receive, the weight of healing yourself from wounds you did not ask for. But perhaps in carrying these weights, you are becoming someone who knows the value of presence, someone who will not take connection for granted, someone who understands that silence can be violence, that withdrawal can be wounding, that love requires showing up. Someone who will bring this knowing into every future connection as both gift and protection. Some people may be ready to let go now, not of the love that may remain in some form always, but of the hope that this person will become who they needed them to be, of the expectation that the confession will come, of the waiting for words that may never arrive. Letting go is not giving up. It is making peace with what is. It is accepting that some stories end without resolution, some wounds close without explanation, some people leave without saying goodbye. And in that acceptance, finding the freedom to turn toward what comes next. What comes next is yours to shape, not defined by who hurt you, not limited by what you lost, but informed by it, deepened by it, strengthened by it. You carry the wisdom of this pain, and that wisdom will guide you toward connections that honor what you've learned. There are people who will not need to disappear. People who will not confuse distance with protection. People who will have the courage to stay, to speak, to show up, even when it's hard. And you will recognize them because you have known the opposite. You have felt the cold of absence, and you will know warmth when it arrives. The confession you may never hear, let it be enough that you have imagined it, that you have given yourself the gift of understanding, even if that understanding never comes from them, that you have chosen to see the complexity beneath the surface without letting that complexity excuse the pain. This is a kind of grace. Grace for them, yes, but more importantly, grace for yourself. Grace that allows you to hold your hurt without being consumed by it. Grace that lets you move forward without being dragged back by what you'll never know. Some people may be ready to take the next step now. Whatever that step looks like for you. A conversation, a closure, a release, a beginning. Trust yourself to know what it is. Trust your healing to show you the way. The person who ignored you, who hurt you, who disappeared, they may have their confession. They may carry love for you in a place they cannot access. But you carry something too. You carry yourself whole and healing, wounded and worthy, hurting and here, and that is enough. That has always been enough. Move forward now if you're ready. Not because the pain is gone, it may never fully leave, but because you have sat with it long enough to understand its shape, its source, its lessons. And understanding, even without resolution, can be a kind of release. The words they may never say, you have heard them now in this space, in your own heart. And having heard them, you are free, free to heal, free to choose, free to become who you are becoming on the other side of this pain. Someone is waiting for that person. The person you are becoming, stronger, wiser, more alive to what matters. And they are worth moving toward. They are worth the journey. Go find them.